Hi everyone. In this particular demo, I'm just going to go over some color mixing. We're going to just use my lemon yellow and cobalt blue. They mix really nice into a decent green. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix those two colors. They are the exact same color in both programs, one in Rebelle 5 and then the other one is in Corel Painter. Now what I want to do is just show that when I mix my colors, I actually don't use the pigment control in Rebelle. I would actually prefer to be able to saturate the colors the amount I want. So for that reason, I actually keep it off. If you go back and look at any or all of my demonstrations, I don't use it. And that is the reason, because I want to actually work with the colors I want in my end result. So for that reason, I actually just keep it off on all layers all the time. Now, going into Corel Painter, it doesn't have that option, but I don't need it. And the reason why is because I actually still then would adjust my colors afterwards once the painting's done if I want to. Now, for me, I'm a nature painter realist, and for me, there's a lot of grays in nature, so it doesn't bother me if I actually get a little wee bit of grayish when I start mixing some of my colors together. If I think they're too cloudy or not vibrant enough, then I can adjust that. But the big difference is I will adjust them as much as I feel I need. Now again, these are only options, that's all. I am not comparing the programs, and I am not going to see which one is better or not. What it is just options in each one to show you how I do my colors for the way I want them to look in the end. Now, just let me grab this picture right here. And now this is a picture of a 24 by 36. Now this is a photograph. Okay, now that was a 24 by 36 stretched on canvas. Now my point for that photograph is that is right after a rain. Even in that particular day, it was actually drizzle all day, and then that's why the rocks are really colorful and they have a nice snap to them. Now, I come out of a photography age of nothing but film. So back then, you had two choices. If you wanted to actually favor a good saturated color, that's when you photographed right after a rain, or even sometimes during a rain. If you wanted yellows, oranges, and reds to snap, then you went with a Kodachrome. If you wanted your blues and greens to snap, then you went with an Ektachrome. And once Provia came out later on, it handled all the colors pretty well. Now, the only reason why I wanted to show you that is because that is what, my opinion, the most saturation I would want in my photographs. I went over a lot of photography. I'll put the link up as to what works and what doesn't for me. But again, this is just me. So you do what you want as far as options go. But if you want the biggest option, then you will adjust the colors yourself and the way you want as an end result. So let's get started, and we'll start off with Rebelle, and we'll go over how I actually mix the colors and what works and what doesn't work for me. Okay, just some background info. I'm going to be working on an 18 by 12 at 300 dpi with no surface texture at all. That way, when it goes from one program to the other, no optical mixes will be involved, no blending, no anything. It's just going to be straight up the colors, and then how we could achieve our mixed colors. And what we will do right now is I'm going to just go with, where's the bloom wet right here, and then I will stay with the watercolors on Rebelle, and I'll make the size, so that's big enough there, and I'm going to leave it, I want the opacity all the way up. We're going to do that in both, and then what we will do is actually pick our yellow first. And I'm going to just go up here, and what I want to do is actually, I don't need to save this in layers because I'll show you why in a minute. What I want to do is start with the yellow, and then I will go to my cobalt blue, which is right here. Now, just as a refresher, here's the cobalt blue, 088-166, and that's the blue here. And then if I go back to the yellow just to verify, 255, 242, and 22. That's my yellow. And when we go into Corel Painter, they will be identical since we're working with RGBs. And then now what I want to do is go to my blue, and then we're going to just mix this in a little bit, and we're going to leave it mix. And I'll give it some time to actually mix. And what I want to do is a couple of different ways. I'm going to do it just a standard way here in Rebelle, but then also use the pigment way in Rebelle. And then we will actually also just use Corel Painter. The tilt is off. So just to let you know there about that. And what we're doing is we're just letting the colors mix. This is the standard way of mixing. Now what I will do is dry this layer completely and then actually go and set another set of yellows and blues right beside it, but I'll use the pigments on that one. Now that mixed a while already. I'm going to go back to my brush, and I will dry that layer just the way it is. And now we will create another layer since we want to make this one a pigment layer. So I'll just go down and tap on this. And I'm not going to save this in layers, so I'm not worried about naming the layers. Now what I want to do is just put on the pigment. And this is what's going to happen though. If I go to my cobalt blue, I'm going to put it down, and right away it's changing the value of my blue. And for me, I don't want that. I want my cobalt blue to look like cobalt blue. If I spend a lot of time planning out my colors and what color I would consider cobalt blue, you could name any color you want, anything you want, but how you perceive it on your screen and how you perceive it as far as in your paintings could be completely different. Now I'll take the yellow and I'll put it in there, and we can make sure this mixes up good. Now with the pigment, that's the cobalt blue right here. With the pigment on, you're going to get some nice vivid greens, but for me they have too much snap to them. That they're going to get almost a little bit on the fluorescent side, and I don't want that. That's for me too strong. If I want that much of a real bright grassy green, then I would just adjust that later. And we'll see what we're going with as this goes on. I'll let that mix a little bit and get some greens. And you can see these are grayer up here. That is true. And then these are going to be reasonably greener down here, just a more sharp, snappy green. But for me, that's just nothing more than more saturated. And that's what I've even said in my previous demonstrations. I don't use the pigment control because to me, that gives me oversaturated colors for me. Now, if you want saturated colors, then there they are. To use the pigment control, and then that way you'll immediately get saturated colors. But then keep in mind, it's going to change the value of your actual colors themselves. And when I save this as a JPEG, then what I'm going to do, you could easily see it now. It's changing the blue to a much more vibrant blue, but then that I wouldn't consider my cobalt blue. If I wanted a snappier blue like that, I can actually use a straight blue just like that. It would not be a cobalt blue. It would be a little bit more vibrant and a little bit sharper blue, but then I can't call it a cobalt blue anymore for me. Okay, we're going to dry that layer. And that's it. Everything's dry. I'm going to make sure everything's dry. And we'll just leave it just as it is. And we'll leave this up here just as a reference to how we are going to view our colors in Painter next. But what I want to do first is we're going to adjust these a little wee bit differently in Rebelle right now first. Okay, let's take a look and see where we're at. Now, right now, I'm on the layer right down here. I had the pigment control on. If I turn that off, that's just down here. It did a good job of mixing my blues and yellows into a nice vibrant green. But for me, that's oversaturated. Now, if you want vibrant greens or any color you're mixing that you want it on the vibrant side, there it is. That will work great. But for me, that is giving me a specific amount of vibrance. And for me, these colors are starting to look a little bit on the fluorescent side. In other words, it's changing the value of my blue from this from this to this. So it's changing even the value, and we could go over that if I save this as a JPEG and then select this color and then select that color, you're going to get two completely different blues, only because it is actually taking out the gray, but it's oversaturating the colors for me. Now, what I mean by that is, let's go down to our bottom layer, and this is the standard layer that it's up here on top. And then what I will do is grab my selection tool, we already have it, and I'm going to create a little selection right across here, and we'll get some of the pure blues down in here, some of the pure yellows, and then the colors of the greens are mixing. Now, they are on the grayish side compared to here, but we're going to adjust that. I will select that, copy and paste that, and it'll come up right here. Now, what I want to show you first is you can see this line across here, and that is because my underneath layer colors are making a difference, that they are not 100% opaque. So I don't want my underlying layer to affect this change at all. In other words, I just want it to be my colors and adjusted the way I want for the sake of this demo. So if I turn this one off, then that's it. Then I'll only have these colors to work with, and that's all I will have. So now what we'll do is we'll actually go to the filters, and then I'm just going to hit hue saturation, because keep in mind, when we actually work with colors mixing, then what I will actually do is adjust the saturation myself. Now, if your colors that are mixing are leaning towards the gray side, then that just means they're desaturated for the most part. Now, however it mixes colors, I'm not interested in that. I am interested in my end result. So now if I want to take this patch right here, this is the one we're working on. If I take this towards more of a saturation, I am already starting to get the same greens I have down here. I'll give it, we stop at 38. And then if I want to adjust the lightness, if I take it this way, I'm going to go way dark. If I take it this way, what I'm trying to do, though, is match these colors here that are already existing. Now, keep in mind, if I was adjusting this for myself, I would match these colors to what I feel is right. Well, in other words, I wouldn't be matching them with anything. I would actually just be adjusting them to where I think is right, and then that's it. So now if I actually try to match these blues to what's down here, I'm already pretty close. I think about right there. And then that would be it. A little bit too light. Okay, we'll go there and we'll stop there. We'll apply that. And then that's it. But then now what we're going to do is we're going to fit this on the screen. And I'm going to go to my script brush, which is right here. And we will make it big. It's already ready to go. I want to keep this on just straight paint. And then I want to actually, here's my pure yellow. Here's my pure yellow up here. And then here's my pure blue. And then here's my pure blue, maybe right in here. And it might be a little bit more on the gray side because I didn't change my value of my blue. Down here it's going to be changed a little bit, and we can even take a couple of hits. Those are all pretty close. So I'm roughly pulling the same color blue out, because remember, the blue did change once I hit the pigment. And now if I start grabbing my greens, here's a green up here. Now that's a pretty vibrant green. If I grab another green here, that's a little bit darker. Let's see if we can find a lighter one. That would be better. And then let's see, we'll get a more of a yellowish green. And then more of a yellowish green down here. A little bit darker. So we can find a lighter one. That might be too light. Yeah, that's too yellowish. Let's see if we can pull this out. I probably should enlarge it. But you'll get the idea that when I'm pulling colors out of here, they are very close to the colors up here. So in other words, now I got a snappy green mixing my blue and yellow. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take this, save it, and then we are actually going to go into, now you can even see the difference from the original. What we're going to do is save this as is, and then actually take this into Corel Painter and do some blue and yellow mixing down there, and they will be the identical blue and yellows. But then I don't have a pigment control in there, but we'll adjust it with the color saturation and color adjustments there and see if we could come up with the same effects. Let's do that next. Okay, we're in Corel Painter now, and I will open up. I'll just go to my Express keys here, and here's the original one right there. That's where we left off. And this is, I will close that. This is the different colors we mixed together and got these variations. Now, we're not worried about matching these colors. I want to mix the same blue and the same yellow in Corel now and just eliminate a grayish green. That's all we're worried about. We're not worried about comparing these programs of what one does and what one the other doesn't do. They're both very good programs. What we were interested in is cleaning up the mixed color between two colors. Now again, this blue and this yellow are pretty far apart in value. And what I mean by that is if you really wanted to even make snappier greens, you could even start out with those greens. Instead of going from a blue straight to a yellow, you could maybe make 5 steps or so, or 6 steps of different values of greens and mix them in with the blue and yellow. Then you'll already be starting off with the snappy green that you want to work with, instead of relying on the mixed color to do that. Now again, what I will do is actually make a new layer, and then we are going to go to this brush right here. This is my stucco brush. Again, this is the same thing. This is a kind of a daub brush that runs out of paint, and then I could turn it into a blender. But what I'll do is go first to my blue, and then again, just to verify, even though this isn't really that important, it's just any blue with any yellow to eliminate the grayish green in between. But since I used the exact same palettes on all my programs, then I know these are identical blues and identical yellows between them. Now this is a 0, 88, and 166. That's what we're looking for. And then if I go to the yellow, then it is the same thing, 255, 242, and 22. And that's what we're looking for here. So now if I go back, we'll start with the blue. And I will pick this brush right here, and I'm just going to just start laying some cobalt blue down, and then what we're going to do is then mix this in with it, the yellow, and I will actually just start mixing, and then we'll take this down to a pure yellow. But what I want to do is get some medium values in here first. Went out of the lines there. And then let's see, let's get a little wee bit more yellow in here, and we'll just mix this in. So we're looking for some kind of a green, and we'll mix those. And again, how well they mix, how they mix. I even use watercolors here, and I'm just using more of a kind of a flat oil paint here. Again, that all doesn't matter. We were adjusting just the individual layers, so no layers underneath affect anything. And then we'll do the same thing here. Now what I will do is go up here and grab my selection brush, or selection tool, I should say. And we'll take a swatch right across here, copy that, paste it, and there it is right here. And again, we will turn this layer off so it doesn't affect anything at all. And then what I will also do is go up here and hit the adjustment colors. I made a quick key there, and I will reset it. So we start off fresh, and then I will readjust these as needed. And then again, these are definitely grayish, but what I don't want a hue shift, because that will completely change things, and that will readjust my hue. And we don't want the hue adjusted, we just want a saturation adjustment. Let's see if I can take this down to 0 without typing it in. Yep. And now these, just for the record, uniform paper, image luminance or original luminance, we're just going to go with original, the uniform color. And then what I want to do is adjust the saturation. And I will actually take this up a little bit, and you can already see I'm starting to get some nice vivid greens there. And depending on how much I take this up, if it's more or less than Rebelle, that doesn't matter. Again, these are not competing the programs against each other. This is just how I would do my color mixing and eliminating the gray if I need to in each program. That's all. Now, if I want to take up just a little bit more, maybe that would be it. We'll leave it at straight 60. And then the value, I don't think I have to change at all. We're going to leave that at 0. And we're going to type it in, though, this time. Okay, that, and then I'll hit just OK. And now we'll compare that to the original, and you can see it's quite different. But what I did do, though, is the blue changed just slightly, and the yellow, I can't tell the difference on my screen. As far as I could see, a very subtle difference. Let's take a look at it up close. Yeah, there's a very subtle difference there. There might be a subtle difference there, too. But what we're going to do, though, is now we're going to take some comparisons, and I'm going to get my Series 7 brush here, and that'll make us some nice comparison. We'll start off with the straight blue of each, and those are pretty close. Now we're going to start going down into the mixed colors, and you can see that these will be more grayish than the top adjusted color. And we'll keep on going here. And this one is the opposite of this color, so you can see there's quite a difference between those two. And again, I'm staying with grayish greens down here. Now this is pretty same right through all of here. And then we'll go down to just a touch of green in the yellow. And again, there's definitely grayish. And we'll get one last one of the pure yellow, just as a comparison from one end to the other. And there's our mixture there. Now again, there's a pretty wide difference between the grayish greens down here and up here. And then you could easily see it once you compare side by side the straight line going across of the grays. So again, if I wanted to adjust my mixed colors or even just colors in general, sometimes I would even just wait until the very end of the painting and make subtle adjustments as I can. Now different programs offer different options, and that's sometimes nice too. With this one, I can even go back in and actually take a specific color and change it, a specific value with a specific range. Now when it comes to the Rebelle and their pigment layer, boy, it would be nice if that had a range. Whereas if I just want to adjust the mixed colors and then also leave my original blue just as it is, my original yellow just as it is, but then just adjust the range in between, that would be downright great. I mean, that would be really, in my opinion, the bestest you could possibly do when it comes to mixing colors digitally. But now what we did do is you can even compare the snappy greens up here, compare to the snappy greens down here. And if I fit it on screen, then same thing with the snappy greens up here. With any of these snappy greens, we are making adjustments that do make a difference. So again, don't panic if your colors are not coming out the way you think they should or the way you want them to. In this demo, I just hope I showed you something that maybe even if we make a permanent change, then keep a original as you're done with it before you start making your changes. Then that way, if you think it's not enough, or if you want to adjust it too much and you want to go back, then you'll have your original file to go back to. Whereas if it was for me, I would even actually take it into Affinity Photo, and that would allow me to actually make adjustment layer masks. So I could even stack masks on top of each other for the same layer. So if I want to do one adjustment, I can make that a mask, another adjustment on the same layer, make that a mask, but because it's a mask, then I can actually go back into that mask and readjust it from scratch anytime I need to. It's not a permanent adjustment. And for me, that is really nice. That program works really well too, even though it's a photography program. That is really nice to be able to adjust your colors that way. But with all this said, and with everything that we did here now, I just hope this gives you some ideas as to don't panic if your colors aren't coming out the way you want them to or need them to. This is digital. There is a million different ways of adjusting things as you go, and to end up with whatever subject matter you paint and whatever style you paint. There's always options, and as long as you give yourself the most options you can, then it will be up to you what your end result looks like. So now, with all that said, I hope you got something out of this. And as I always say, until I see you out in the field or back at the studio, thanks for watching.